Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to more GT7 content. Now this is actually going to be a continuation of I guess a series of videos which it will now be that I started up around about a week ago. Now one of my favourite things to do between the kind of downtime with updates and such in Gran Turismo 7 is actually do little challenges, especially for some of the more kind of forgotten about or kind of obscure cars within GT7. Now this one here, you're actually going to see me try and grind the 600 event at Tokyo with the Mazda Gr.4. Now the reason I thought this would be quite a cool little challenge is the fact, at Tokyo it's a very kind of known circuit for just running overpowered builds, and I thought kind of using a car that has major advantages and major disadvantages will make for a great little challenge to see if we can actually get the win there or end up wasting really 30 minutes of my life. So yeah, this is going to be obviously a continuation of this kind of challenge series, and if you're wondering where this kind of started off, I'd probably say here with the Toyota Prius. Obviously last week I uploaded a video where in fact it was a video to essentially bash on this car because I absolutely hate it, but then eventually it kind of turned into this whole kind of challenge thing, and I kind of feel like it was so well received and people really enjoyed it. So if you did miss that video, don't forget to go and check that one out. So obviously my idea with that video wasn't even to turn it into a series. However, I feel like it was so well received and people really enjoyed it that is kind of what I want to do, kickstart a new series where, these challenges become kind of commonplace on the channel, and we do like really silly things, really, crazy builds, and try and just do some ridiculous things with it. So at the end of this video, if you do actually have some suggestions on weird little quirky challenges you want me to do, just list them in the comments and I'll look through them and I'll just kind of pick them out one by one and go and test them out. And if it's kind of a successful kind of, format for a video, I'll go ahead and make a full-blown video on them. So let's get more into the details about this car. As you can see, it's four-wheel drive, it's got just under 400 brake horsepower, and its standard performance points just comes in at over 600, so we are going to have to make a few changes. Now you can buy this car for 350,000 credits, so it's relatively cheap. There's actually two versions, they never used to be, but this is mainly because in the last update there's a series going on in Japan to do with Gran Turismo and Mazda, and they kind of just put these, different livery cars in the game. They're both the exact same, it doesn't matter which one you go and purchase. That's obviously if you want to go and try this crazy little challenge out for yourself. So obviously I had to down tune the car to get it under 600 pp. Now I originally forgot to get this when I did my run, so I've actually gone back today to get my tuning sheet. As you can see, I've got the racing hards to begin with. Now the good thing about this means we can actually run intermediates because it will drop the performance points down. However, it will allow us to be a lot better off in the wet. Obviously racing tyres in the wet, it's just not a fun experience, even though we do it quite a lot at Tokyo. In terms of like the standard suspension settings, I've gone to not really go too far from the standard. I've kept the body height down as much as possible, so it doesn't quite bottom out, but it still gives us a nice low ride height at Tokyo. It's not the smoothest of tracks, it's quite bumpy. In terms of differential, I believe I've just left this completely unchanged. I didn't really want to kind of fiddle around with that too much. It felt kind of fine straight out of the box. I've got the fully customizable racing transmission on, and I've actually set it to the minimum. This is because at Tokyo I want to make most of my time up through the corners. I'm not really bothered about the straights because even with a top speed tune I wouldn't be able to keep up with those cars at Tokyo. Ballast I've obviously had to add quite a bit, so it's at 92 with a -49 positioning. I'm not power restricting this car at all, and in terms of downforce it's kind of the usual, minimum at the front, maximum at the rear. This just somehow lets your PP really drop and go down. Then nothing else is changed, it's all bog standard. So away we went on this absolutely ridiculous challenge, and as you can see straight away we are massively lagging behind the competition. Yeah, so this is looking like a bit of a problem as we get started out. As you can see, I've started the car on intermediate, so we are going to have a decent amount of grip, even through the corners where we want to make most of our time up, and then essentially we're going to try and do this on a one-stop strategy. The inters I don't think would have lasted the whole time, so I'm just going to kind of mainly use them when it's as wet as it really should be. And then as it dries out, we're going to jump on the racing hard tyres and essentially try and go to the end. So we've got our strategy planned out, and now all we need to do is think about our strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, we want to make most of our time up under acceleration through the corners. Obviously, we've got a lot more grip than the road going cars. Obviously, the fact that we're a race car. We are four-wheel drive as well, so we've got plenty of grip with the all-wheel drive system, and this is going to allow us to essentially keep that back end nice and stable. We shouldn't have any real big moments. So yeah, away we went, and we're obviously going to start trying to make as many moves as we can on the opening lap when the grid's kind of mainly bunched up. So, looking at the early stages of this race, it's looking as though my strategy is going to work. Obviously, on the main straight, we're absolutely hopeless and we can't really hang with them. We can, however, run in slipstreams, which is essentially what we're going to be needing to do. But as soon as we've gotten to the more kind of complex part of the track where there's more turns and more twists, we're able to essentially get ourselves working through the pack quite quickly. We're already up to P11 and already challenging for P10 as we take it down the inside of the Jaguar. Hopefully we've got enough grip to get ourselves out the corner, and it looks like it. We're through there, and now we're essentially going into the faster cars in the pack. Now there is a few kind of standout vehicles at Tokyo. For me, mainly I'd say Fraga in that Supra in terms of its straight line. You've got Gallo in the NSX, which again is very quick and very grippy, as well as things like the Subaru and the more kind of classic, more modern version of the Supra are all very capable cars. The RX-7 is a little bit of a hit and miss. It seems to perform sometimes, and other times it'll just be absolutely nowhere. So they're the main cars I'm actually looking out for. Now, I'm also kind of banking that my strategy on kind of doing a one-stop is going to pay off. Obviously, I know overall, in terms of pace, I cannot keep up with them. So I'm going to have to rely on that one-stop being very reliable, and basically the AI actually pitting at the usual times. Now, sometimes they do pit, other times they don't necessarily pit the same amount of times. You know, I'm hoping that essentially my one stop's going to be enough to get me all the way to the end, whilst they're kind of pitting and stuff. I can make my time up there. But at this moment in time, obviously I'm not too sure. Sometimes Tokyo feels very random. You kind of pick out on, you know, some kind of strategies that the cars go for, but then you'll have Gallo and such, which sometimes he will pit and it will give you a massive advantage on the last lap, and then sometimes he won't, and he's able to keep much closer to you. So it's very kind of hit and miss at Tokyo. But as you can see, we're up to P9 at the end of lap 1. Now on to lap 2, we're still trying to push through the field in the more complex sections of the track. We're going to try and go around the outside here of both the Mercedes and Igor Fraga in his classic Toyota Supra. As you can see, he gets a bit of a slide out of that corner, and we're going to manage to push on through and get ourselves into P6. However, we have that horrible huge straight coming up. As you can see here, the Toyota Supra is going to make a little work of us. It's essentially just going to go straight past us. Now, this does give us a bit of a help in hand in terms of holding off the Mercedes and the Subaru. We can run in the slipstream. Obviously, we know he's still going to continue to pull away from us, but it does give us that slightly bit of a better top end. Now the Mercedes here does kind of what the AI seems to do in Gran Turismo, and essentially rides on my bumper without really actually trying to make a move. It's really kind of weird how they do this, so hopefully the Sophie AI will actually change this. The Mercedes is going to go to the inside, but we're going to have too much grip, and we're going to be able to just hold off from that attack. So we actually managed to only drop one position on the straight, but as you can see, the gap that we're actually losing on that straight, and by the time we get to the end, is massive as the classic Supra essentially drives up and away from us. But we are going to be able to begin closing that gap now as we push on into lap 3. So we're coming towards the end of lap 3, and we're going to try and make a move on the Supra here. Now obviously it's come at a bit of an awkward time because, you know, well, the big straights come in, but we do have the Porsche up in front of us, as you can see, that we're going to essentially be able to, you know, ride in the slipstream early on at least. And obviously because we've got a better drive out of that bit of a hairpin, it is going to give us a bit of an advantage early on. However, obviously we know that Supra has a ton of top speed as the Porsche basically disappears, and we fall out of that slipstream, you know, a lot more than we kind of, you know, wanted to. And the Supra is going to quite easily try and make its move. I'm going to try and block it off, and it does actually go into my rear panel. It's just kind of, you know, a bit of spatial awareness on both myself and the AI. So that's going to slow us both down. This is actually going to allow the Mercedes-Benz to now really get up and basically overtake both of us. It's a bit of a nightmare situation because that Mercedes is an absolute rocket in a straight line. However, we should quite easily be able to make our time up going around the corners. As you can see, the Supra trying to get up the inside, but hopefully we've got a bit of a better braking system on the car, and obviously we've got the four-wheel drive to help us go through the corner, so we can brake later and you know, essentially hold off a potential overtake there for the Supra. We have managed to keep quite close to the Mercedes. Again, like I said, the Mercedes doesn't seem to be too great through the corners, so we're going to be able to hang with that pretty easily, even if it does drive off in some of the more, you know, straight sections. As soon as it gets to anywhere with a braking zone, mainly the corners just up ahead, we are going to be able to make the move. So we have eventually made the move on the Mercedes and gapped it a little bit and got ourselves back on the rear end of that Porsche. So we're still up in P6, just about to take P5, and we're going to go down the inside of the hairpin, get a much better drive out. Obviously the four-wheel drive on this car allowing us to push a lot harder out of corners and maintain grip. Now obviously we are still on the intermediates, and we're looking at actually going on to lap 5 here with the track actually drying out. So come lap 4, the track really does tend to just dry out enough to be able to go on to the more dry compounds of tyres. So I'm actually going to kind of risk it all here and box in and get myself on those racing hards. I'm going to try and do my pit stop now and hopefully have enough fuel to, you know, get us to the end, and hopefully the racing hard tyres will be able to hold off all the way to the end as well without kind of too much performance loss as we kind of get into the later stages of the race. So after doing a pit stop, we've actually come out in P15. Now we are not dead last. I don't know which car's behind us. I believe it may be the Dodge Viper that runs in here, the black one with the red stripes, and I'm not quite sure why it's so far back this early on. I don't know if it just struggles that much in the wet. In the dry, it's, you know, not really that bad. But we're going to start trying to make some moves straight away as we manage to catch back up with the Jaguar here. As you can see, we're going to go for a little bit door-to-door action. We're going to get it down the inside. The Jaguar's not going to get the best drive out, and we're going to hopefully be able to power away. However, we did overshoot it, and this is going to allow the Jaguar to get straight back on our rear tail. Hopefully, now what I can really kind of wish for at this point is the Jaguar gets the overtake done, and we're able to run in the slipstream just to give ourselves that little bit extra top-end speed to kind of stay on the back of it and you know, kind of help us just kind of reduce our time spent on the straight. You know, the more time we kind of hung out to dry on the straight, there's more time we're losing to the leaders and such. So, you know, the best thing we can really do is, you know, run on the back of the Jaguar. And as you can see, it did make its move, but that thing is an absolute rocket in a straight line. It did really catch me by, you know, surprise, because the Jaguar was never usually kind of up the top in any time I, you know, grind Tokyo. So to kind of see it pull away that fast, I was very, very surprised. So we did eventually get past the Jaguar again. As you can see, we managed to gap it massively through the tightest sections. He's all the way back there in the background. Now a bunch of cars are actually going to start pitting at this point. This is going to allow us to move back up the grid, and we're actually going to end up in P10 by the time we get across the line onto lap 7. So this is much, much better, and essentially we're just extending our gap over the rest of them cars that are pitting, because they're going to take a little bit of time really to do it, to, you know, go and get the tyres and such put on. However, even better, the next time we go across the line to go on to lap 8, a bunch of other cars are pitted in, and this has actually took us to P5. Now, obviously, you can see the GTR absolutely hammering it down there, as well as the Supra. The GTR is going to make a little work of us on the straight, but the trouble is, with that GTR, it also has four-wheel drive and is insanely grippy through that section of the track. However, we do manage to get up and past it, as well as past the Alfa Romeo on lap 8. This has now took us to P4 with 4 laps remaining. However, as you can see, the gap to the other cars up in front, really, so P1 to P3 is quite a big gap. So at this point, I'm kind of losing hope. However, they all pit. So at the end of lap 8, they all pit in, and this is actually going to allow us to take the lead. As you can see, Gallo just coming out of the pits as we go past, and I know that NSX is no slouch in the corners and no slouch in the straights. As you can see, he's quite quickly going to be able to sort of reduce that gap even when coming out the pit lane. As we can see, we've also got the GTR and the Alfa Romeo there. So we do have a couple of seconds gap. We're just currently coming off the main straight. However, the next time around onto lap 10, you're going to see the absolute speed deficit here, you know, really kind of shown in the best possible way. The fact that the NSX just absolutely closes the gap right up, as well as the GTR, and even the Alfa Romeo, even though it is a little bit more back. Yeah, we are losing an absolute ton of time through there, and we are absolutely pushing to, you know, kind of keep this car up there and in the lead, even in these last few stages. So, you know, we don't have to pit again. It's kind of, you know, at this point, I do hope that Gallo does that last lap pit stop, which will really kind of mess his time up. I'm hoping the GTR manages to drop off a little bit as well. So we're going to go over to lap 11. The tyre wear, it's okay. It's not bad. It's not manageable. They are starting to drop off a little bit, so our lap times are going down. But this time around, the NSX is much, much closer. As you can see, getting right on the rear end of the car. It's going to go straight to the outside. Is it going to be able to make the move, or are we going to be able to kind of, you know, keep him held at bay? As you can see, he does get up ahead of us, but we're going to just try and brake later, as well as a GTR also closing up as well. So we are in trouble at this point. Not long to go in Tokyo, and we just got to essentially keep doing what we're doing. You know, our strategy does seem to be working out of, you know, kind of, yes, we've got reduced pace on the straight, but we can make the moves in the more kind of slower sections. But that NSX is just stuck on the back of us. However, luck would have it our way, as the Gallo in the NSX does actually pit. As we can see, the GTR just absolutely dropped off on that lap. Now, I'm not actually sure really what happened. It didn't pit, it kept on actually going. But yeah, it's just really bizarre. I don't know if it's spawn or had an incident. I've never really seen that many incidents at Tokyo with the AI. But yeah, we did actually, though, finally manage to get across that line. Even if our lap times were off, we managed to take the win in the Mazda, and it actually proves to be a very, very fun challenge. So there we have it. My challenge series is now, I guess, fully up and running. Don't forget to leave your kind of challenges down below if you want me to try them out and see if they work. I will try and go through as many as I possibly can. It does take me some time, so just be patient. It might even be a few weeks to even a month before your video gets kind of gets made, or idea gets kind of made into a video. But I will try my best to do as many as possible, because I'm having a whole heap of fun kind of doing this thing, and I hope you guys actually enjoyed it too. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications on so you don't miss an upload from myself. I upload GT7 racing content, all that stuff, each and every day. Thank you to my channel members. Thank you to my sponsor for today's video, the Controller People. They're in the description down below, as well as my Twitter and Discord. And that's going to be it. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!